These are the biggest winners from day 3 of the NFL Combine. Joe DeLeone, Ryan Roberts here for Best Spot Available. We're back from Indianapolis. We're settled somewhat to a degree. We're going to be talking running backs, wide receivers, and quarterbacks. The back-to-back meals at St. Elmo's are starting to hit me. I'm very sleepy, Ryan. I don't know about you. It's definitely caught up to me in that regard. I need to eat a lot less for the next couple days.
Full of gristle. That's all that's happening right now.
All right, let's start with the running backs, Ryan.
Yeah.
Mike Washington, Ryan. I need
Go ahead,
you to hear me
Joe.
out.
Go ahead, Joe. Joe.
Ryan,
No.
Ryan,
Before we do this. 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 Joe.
Ryan,
Before we do this.
Ryan.
Can I just play our conversation about Matthew Gold last year because it's the same exact conversation. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But Ryan, this is the same thing this isn't what I was going to jump in with, but you've already triggered me.
Okay.
You managed to rage bait me, even though I said I was going to rage bait you. Uh-huh. I was in on Matthew Golden last year, and I really liked Matthew Golden, and I thought that the speed, was it 4.2? But it was still on tape, and you wouldn't agree with me. And I was proven right that the speed was there. The same thing applies for Mike Washington. The speed is there with Mike Washington. I thought that Mike Washington had good speed. I didn't think he had break away, separate from you, completely run away. But I thought he was a good accelerator and he was explosive, which we got from him at 223 pounds and 6'1". He ran 4.33, had a 39-inch vertical and a 10.8 broad. I feel pretty vindicated and justified, and I think that I feel confident in saying, which I had him previously, this is RB3.
You know why I hate this conversation? Do you know why I actually hate this conversation?
Why?
I like Mike Washington. I like Mike Washington. This is going to sound like I'm negative on Mike Washington. My whole point is that he is not a 4.33 runner. Like, he's just not. So I hate.
Who cares?
So no, because Joe, because this is what happens now in overreaction land. I'm not even talking about you at the moment because I know he's your boy. Like, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about in Twitter where everyone's like, oh man, people told me Mike Washington wasn't fast. People told me he wasn't. And then they get super uneasy about the conversation about his play speed because honestly, bro, and we've talked about this.
Okay.
He's explosive. He's got really good feet for a bigger back. I like Mike Washington. Top 100 pick. Absolutely. I'm there. I've been there on Mike Washington, former New Mexico State, Buffalo transfer. I like Mike Washington. But the Combine told us today that he's faster than Jeremiyah Love. That's what it told us. It's a farce.
Yes.
It's a farce. Yes.
Here's the it's not a farce because that kind of implies that the number is fake. It kind of you're kind of implying
I'm not accusing anybody, but it seems a little fake to me. It seems a little fake. Yeah.
Ryan, here's the big key here. And I've tried to do that. I know that sometimes we text about overreactions that happen, but here's the key. We don't need to pay attention to what people on Twitter are saying. We could just contextualize things in how we perceive them. I think more people are more interested in hearing how we perceive them. So make me your enemy, which you have done. You've effectively done this. You have made me your enemy. I'm just saying I understand that it does not show up on film that he is faster than Jeremiyah Love. They are different types of athletes. They're different types of runners. But and also, 4.33 does not make Mike Washington suddenly, out of nowhere, overnight, a top 50 pick. It doesn't make him a first rounder. It does not shoot him up draft boards. It just allows us to have the understanding that he is explosive. And me personally, I thought he was more explosive than you did. And I have indication for what I saw on film.
No, we never once disagreed on the explosiveness. My only hang up was I didn't think he had a third gear. That's been the conversation point for months.
Well, I thought that he did. I thought he did a little bit more than you did. I didn't. I did not see 4.33. I thought he was a 4.4 guy, a low 4.4 guy.
If you would have told me he ran 4.48 or 4.49, I would have been like, okay, that's all right. That's fine. But like the point is here is that I really don't care what he ran in Indianapolis. I personally don't care because I think overall 40-yard dash times are very overrated for running backs. Like, there's a lot of good running backs who do not test well in the 40. Mike Washington could have ran a 4.5 flat today, and I would have been like, okay, I still like Mike Washington. My point is that I just don't think he's a 4.3 athlete. Like, that's all it is. For me,
all right.
What do I want in what am I getting in Mike Washington? I'm getting a big physical runner who's explosive, gets up to that top speed in a hurry, and he's got really good feet and surprisingly good feet to make guys miss in tight quarters. I like Mike Washington. I think that he is in a committee approach. I think he is the early down feature in a running back room. He had a great showing in Indianapolis, and I think that he is going to continue to rise into that conversation. And we're probably going to do a little bit of fun, I don't want to call it superlatives, but we're going to talk a little bit about, just kind of pecking order after Jeremiyah Love somewhat here in the near future. We kind of revisit that running back 2 conversation to a degree. And I do think, and I will say this firmly, I think with Mike Washington has shown this offseason at the Senior Bowl, with what he has shown in Indianapolis now, with the character report that he has, because he's got tremendous character off the field, I do think that he is firmly in the running back 2 conversation. So we're going to continue to talk about Mike Washington because you know what, Joe? The one thing that we do agree on is he's a really good player, and he's going to play a lot on the NFL level.
Okay. 2 other guys who are really good players are teammates, Jeremiyah Love, yes. Jadarian Bryce. Jeremiyah Love did what was expected at 6 foot 212. He ran a 4.36. We were expecting him to run in the 4.3s. Didn't do any other testing, but he took it upon himself to go out there, do the on-field drills. Looks super smooth. This is one of those things where it almost feels silly to bring up Jeremiyah Love because we know who he is. We know that he's the best running back. There was nothing new that was broken down from what he did. It was just a nice little, you know what it was? It was kind of like a pace car. It was like a pace car. It was watching Jeremiyah Love go out there and set the pace for everybody else because he did everything so well and so naturally. So that was what Jeremiyah Love's purpose was. It was kind of allowing for everyone to be compared to him. Bryce, however, 5'11", 203. He runs a 4.49, which is a solid time.
Good number.
I was hoping he'd be a little closer to like 4.4. And when you're in that 4.5, I thought that was a little surprising. But 4.49's solid number. 35 inch on the vertical, 10.4 on the broad. Overall good testing, but where he shined was the on-field drills because we knew he was an efficient player. We knew he was a guy that didn't have a lot of wasted movement. We knew he was a guy that was always going to have really good body control. All those things constantly showed up in every single drill that he did after he did his athletic testing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just quickly about Love, Joe, we haven't seen Jeremiyah Love on a football field in a while, right? With how the 2025 season ended and with no playoffs and no bowl game, opting out of the Pop-Tart Bowls. So we haven't seen him just in action in a very long time at this point. So I think it's just a good subtle reminder to the NFL evaluators, the scouts, the media, everybody that Jeremiyah Love is quite a good football player. And I think that the big thing that we saw, we knew he was going to be fast, man. Like I said, the over-under at like 4.38, I think, right? So like he was going to be somewhere high 4.3, maybe 4.4 flat, whatever. He's incredibly fast. He's very smooth, has great feet. But I really do think that one part that people I think are still a little in between on, and I'm sold on the receiving upside of Jeremiyah Love, but for whatever reason, he wasn't always prioritized that way in Mike Denbrock's offense the last 2 years. I think there is still more meat on the bone as a receiver on the NFL level, and we saw that, dude. Like him running some routes out of the backfield, him running some routes split outs. Like you see the smoothness that he has. So I think he just, again, reminds everybody how talented he is. For Bryce, I agree with you. So I said his over-under, Joe, at 4.41. 4.41 was it. I was like, I think he's going to run somewhere between 4.4 flat and like 4.43. Like that was kind of my thought because that's the selling point he brings to the table. He's a very explosive one-cut runner who hits home runs, right? So I'm not worried about that speed. I was a little bit disappointed just because I know he played more in like the 208 to 210 range this year. So he cut a little bit of weight only down to 203, so I was expecting a really good time. Still a good number, but you were hoping for just slightly more. But I agree. I think in the on-field opportunities, Jadarian Bryce looked really, really good. And man, he's got some of the biggest biceps of all time, by the way. I don't want to make things weird, but like his upper body is pretty crazy, dude. His upper body's pretty, super pause on that. But I do think that he, along with Mike Washington, I still believe in Jonah Coleman, even though we didn't get Jonah Coleman on the field in Indianapolis. I think that there is a
Didn't he say he was going to run a really good time and then not run?
A couple people did that. I was texting someone. It was like Eric McAllister from TCU. I was at his podium yesterday, and he said that he was going to run like 4.3, and then he chose not to do anything. So like
maybe he meant pro day.
Maybe pro day. Maybe I don't know. But
either way, the full quote. I just generally annoying.
Either way, the running back 2 conversation is going to be fun. Like going down the stretch of the season, like we know Jeremiyah. The only questions about Jeremiyah Love now are 1, how high does he go? And 2, ending his evaluation, where do you compare him to Ashton Genty? And where do you compare him to Bijan Robinson? Like some of the great running back talents that we've seen come out of the draft. Like that's the conversation point about Jeremiyah Love. But Jadarian Price, Mike Washington, still very much in the conversation to be that second running back off the board. And I'm very interested to see who ends up being that guy in April.
Yeah, it was a fun debate that we had talking about RB2, and I do think that the context that we now have, it's a little bit more clear that I do think it is Mike Washington and Jadarian Price who are duking it out. We'll get testing for Coleman at some point. Emmett Johnson was a little disappointing. Let's move on over to wide receiver. We didn't get testing to a degree that helped us reshuffle some of these first-round names. A lot of the movement, I feel like, are players who were in that big jumbled mess of day 3 names. Yep. There's a little bit more, I think, of a separation with these 3 guys that I want to bring up. Deion Burks from Oklahoma, Bryce Lance from North Dakota State, Brenan Thompson from Mississippi State. I felt like I had a really good understanding of what these guys were going to do testing-wise, so I'm not really like coming away from this thinking, wow, this changes everything. We haven't really done that this week for anybody. Right. Brenan Thompson runs a 4.26. You said that he was going to run the fastest 40. You called your shot. You were correct there. He weighs 164 pounds at 5'9". Do with that what you want. Bryce Lance, tall, long as hell, 6'3", 204 pounds. He runs a 4.34, 41.5-inch vertical, 11.1 on the broad, 7.3 cone, and then a 4.15 20-yard shuttle. So, solid agility numbers there. Deion Burks has been a guy that as you know, back at our RPM days, I brought him to the table very early on in the beginning of the season for agent recommendation when he was at Purdue. He ended up at the end of the season getting brought up when he entered the portal how NFL teams had a top 100 grade on him, and then we felt pretty vindicated that the team liked him a lot. Production wasn't great at Oklahoma. He had some hurdles with Jackson Arnold throwing him the ball, and then John Mateer being banged up this year, and him also being a little banged up last year. Still runs a 4.3 though. Has a 42.5-inch vertical, a 10.11 on the broad. He's 180 pounds. But dude, I think that out of any of these guys, if I'm looking for a receiver in the 4th round, I still really think that Deion Burks has some redeemability of becoming a good kick returner, and then a solid 3rd or 4th wide receiver on a team. I think it's totally plausible.
Well, so I actually really I feel like I'm over consensus on Deion Burks because I'm still holding out hope myself. I'm interested to see what the medical feedback is for him this season because, as you mentioned, he has been banged up a good bit the last couple of years. It hasn't been anything like super serious, but anytime we're just talking about like these nagging injuries on smaller wide receivers, it's kind of just interesting to monitor. I will say this, Joe. That guy, even though he's only 180 pounds, he's put together pretty well, man. Like, he's pretty dense for as small as he is, right? So, like, he has some after-catch ability. Obviously, I think he can break some tackles in open space, but it's that home run speed, man. And he is, like, he transferred into a tough situation, right? Because not only did he get banged up in 2024, as you mentioned, Jackson Arnold was not good. And then he gets John Mateer, who looked like he was good like the first 2 games of the season. And then all of a sudden, it's also like he's not very good. And he didn't get prioritized a ton because the passing attack was just bad. So I do kind of think that there's still some meat left on the bone with Deion Burks if he hits the right situation. So agree completely on him on that one. The only thing I would have wished I would have got from Brenan Thompson, because I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think Brenan Thompson's going to go top 100 because he is a 4.2 athlete. Yeah. And he just I think he led the SEC in receiving yards, if I remember correctly. Like, he had a big year for Mississippi State. So Don't quote me on that one. Maybe I could fact check myself as well on that. But the only thing I wanted to see this week, Joe, that most guys don't do in this setting, and I understand why, is for as explosive as Brenan Thompson is, I don't think he's a great change of direction athlete. So I would actually love to get like a 3-cone and a short shuttle on him at some point, because I'm curious if it's just Mississippi State asked him just to be the vertically oriented outside winner in their offense, or if that's a limitation thing he has where he can't decelerate well. He doesn't have the most fluidity, but speed kills, man. 4.26 kills, and we were chatting. I don't know if you saw the message a couple weeks ago. We were in a group chat with a current NFL scout, and the scout said he is my cross check. He's my cross check guy in terms of like trying to figure out if the corners playing against Mississippi State are fast or not. I just watched him against Brenan Thompson to see if they are even in the ballpark of how fast that guy is, right? So he's a little bit of a litmus test for some opposing cornerbacks, which is just like super interesting. Bryce Lance, we've talked about him a ton, haven't we? The tools are awesome, and I would be totally fine with a day 3 dart throw. I still think on film I think he struggles at the line of scrimmage against press. I think he's a inconsistent hands catcher of the football. He doesn't have a ton of drops, but there's a lot of double catches on film. So I think as the competition gets better, there's probably more likely some drops that are going to kind of mix in. But I like the tools. We saw the tools. I just hope that he doesn't get overdrafted, because I do think a team could be a little bit underwhelmed if they draft him to be a guy that's going to come into a room immediately. I think he does need some maturation, go to the next level. But shout out to him. Did you see this one? Dane Brugler said that he had gotten 7-figure offer this past offseason by a Big Ten team, and he chose to stay with North Dakota State. Wow. So shout out to Bryce Lance. That's the loyalty that is lacking in college football right now to a large degree.
Good on him. Thompson did lead the SEC in wide receiving this year, so you were correct on that. Moving on over to quarterbacks around us out here.
Dude, I know ball, man. Do I know ball or what?
No, you don't. Taylor Green, you memorized a fact. You're smart. You're smart, but you're uninformed, as we talked about it.
As a good friend would say, yes.
As somebody said to us at dinner last night. Taylor Green now enters the QB2 discussion with his performance at the NFL Combine. You're not gonna cut me off. You're just gonna let me go.
No, go ahead.
You were just gonna let me go. You weren't gonna cut me off. You were gonna. You're a bad. Really, you weren't going to stop me. I thought you would have said something.
I was hoping you were going to get clipped for that. I was just going to keep letting you go. Get the full quote out. Yes.
No. We're gonna get Taylor Green in a second. I want to talk about the real QB2. Ty Simpson doesn't do any athletic testing. I was saying this to you earlier jokingly, but there's some truth to this. His shirt was tight. Man. I think that he's bulked up quite a bit. He looks like he has added the weight. He was listed at he was over 210. I forget what the exact weight was. I'll check that in a quick.
211.
211. So he's over 210. He looked like he was a lot more filled out than the end of the season, which was a legitimate concern. It was something that I felt like got brought up a ton when I was talking to people about him in Indy. So I'm no longer really worried about that. He's got more time to add whatever remaining weight if they. A team thinks he should be at 220 if they thought he needed to be just a little bit bulkier. But he, without a doubt, and it's not even close, was the most natural thrower during the on-field drills. Wasn't perfect. The deep ball that he threw to Virgil was very disappointing. Yeah. I think you might know the specific rep where he really badly underthrew him and moonballed it. A couple other not great deep balls. But the placement throughout, in short to intermediate situations, he was money. It was everywhere it needed to be. Guys were not even really adjusting to come back to the ball. Meanwhile, everybody else was airmailing passes left and right. The balls were all over the place. He was super, super steady. I'm not going to jump to the ridiculous conclusion just yet, because I feel like with Simpson specifically, our opinions don't matter. I'd love to hear what the scuttlebutt is after this performance. But I think that this is the type of showing that he needed to lock himself into the first round. I'm curious to see how much further he could go up from here.
Yeah, well, and a quick shout out to Drew Allar from Penn State, because I do think that he had a good showing coming off the foot injury. Like, I thought he had a couple nice throws, which was good to see him just back on the field. Joe, I think that the most important thing, and you already mentioned it a ton, is that Ty Simpson added weight to his frame. Like, he struggled with injury this year. He's got a smaller frame for a guy that is mostly a pocket-oriented quarterback. So I think, first and foremost, you knew he was going to interview well, which, by all indication, he did interview well, right? Like, he's the cliche, Joe. He is the coach's son, right? Like, he's the coach's son. He's going to interview well, and he apparently did interview well. And I do think that putting the body armor is the main thing that I wanted to see, the ability to stay healthy, because I do think that there is still some upside with Ty Simpson, because he is a one-year starter. He can get better, and I do think that he has solid to good overall physical skills. Like, I think the ball jumps out fine. I think he's a pretty mobile athlete. Like, he moves well inside of the pocket and out, so I do think he has some upside there. I just need to see him healthy, physically looking better, continue to add good weight to that frame, and I think we did see that in Indianapolis, and a solid to good overall showing. But I do think that he has, if he's not quarterback 2, I would be shocked at this point. Like, he's going to be the second quarterback off the board.
Because there's nobody else. There's literally, if you paid attention to the throwing, there's nobody else.
Taylor Green.
Okay, wait, before we get into that, do you have anything else to add on Simpson, or is that your final thought?
No, that's it, man. I think he's solidified everything. Yeah. I still have a question of just how high he goes. Is he a mid-first guy? Is he end of the first guy? Is he still an early second-round quarterback, just with some of the question marks? I do think that there's a little bit of a range to Ty, but wherever he ends up going, I do think he will be the second quarterback, barring some medical setback that I don't know about.
I also still think that, well, his combine showing was better than Jackson Dart's, and I feel like his pre-draft interviews are probably going to be more enticing than Jackson Dart's. I feel as though there's probably going to be a lot of buzz for him over the coming weeks to go to a litany of teams in the top 20. Let's keep it conservative. We'll find out if he ends up having a lot more momentum than Dart did. And Dart had a lot of momentum, and he still ended up going in the first round despite probably typically being an early second-round pick in many other draft classes. I think that this is exactly what Simpson needed to do. The two athletic freaks, let's get to them. Cole Payton from North Dakota State runs a 4.56, 40-inch vertical, 10-10 broad, 7.123 cone, 4.36 20-yard shuttle. Yep. You then have Taylor Green, who shows up and sets records, 4.36 40-yard dash, 4.35 43.5-inch vertical, 11.2 in the broad. He weighs 227 at 6'6". Those numbers are otherworldly for both these guys. This was discussed. They were both of our quarterbacks on our all-combine prediction team for who was going to test the best. We knew that they were going to be really athletic. You know where they needed to look good? The on-field. You know where they needed to look poised and confident and consistent and steady and natural. That's the key word, natural. The on-field drills. You know where they didn't look natural? The on-field drills. Both of these guys. This happens every year. There's always, and it's funny that we have two players that fit into this bucket. Players that are very physically gifted, but are just do not have that I'm sounding redundant saying the word natural, but they don't have that natural feel for the position, at least right now.
Right.
I think that it was very evident throughout the throwing sessions that every time they had a good throw, it was followed up typically with a very erratic bad throw. That variance is troubling. Cole Payton to me is not QB2, nor would I take him on day 2. Taylor Green is a late day 3 pick who is a dart throw that maybe you keep him on the roster as a weapon, just like Cole Payton, and hope maybe he develops a little bit. But I don't think that either of these guys is a solution to a team's quarterback problem, at least at the current moment. There is a lot of risk and I think a very, very little potential reward.
This is why I need to stay off of Twitter before the workouts are done, Joe, because after Taylor Green did what he did athletically, I'm watching people on Twitter call him a winner. He's a winner. He's a winner of the day. He won the week. Oh, man, Taylor Green. I saw someone say that he's the third-round quarterback that you want after the athletic testing. I'm like, guys, we haven't seen him throw the football. And he plays a position where That is the thing that matters most. Like, what are we doing here? You didn't see him throw the football, and you are just losing your minds. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I felt like I was in the loony bin for a few minutes. I'm like, guys, the most important thing that he needs to do, we have not seen yet. I was dumbfounded. I really was, Joe. And look, here's the deal. Here's the deal. I have been and will continue to be out on Taylon Green because Taylon Green is not Cole Payton in the sense of Cole Payton still has developmental upside because he just hasn't played enough football. He's only been a one-year starter. Yeah. I know who Taylon Green is, Joe. Like, I know who he is.
He's Joe Milton. He's Joe Milton. He's the same thing.
He's been a 3+ year starter. I also don't think his arm is that incredible. Like, for a guy that is 6'6", 227 pounds, I actually would think that he would have a stronger overall arm. And he's been the same passer now for 3+ years, dating back to Boise State to what he is at Arkansas. I have so much data on Taylon Green that I'm not overly excited about the next step in his maturation as a quarterback because I've seen him. I know what he is. I know what he is. Cole Payton, I am still interested in. Did not have a good throwing session. I knew he was a good athlete. I do think there are still some tools there to develop, but as we had Dane Brugler on the channel, you guys should go back and check out that interview because I thought it was really good, and he brought up Cole Payton, and he kind of reiterated the same thing I've heard him say before of, I like Cole Payton, I'm intrigued by Cole Payton, but I wouldn't spend a top 100 pick on Cole Payton because there's just so much unknown and so much variance that could happen for a one-year starter coming from the FCS level. So yes, we got to throw the bucket on, put out the fire here for a second because I think there was a little bit of just kind of going overboard from the athletic testing and not enough prioritizing the thing that matters most for a quarterback, which is throwing the football.
Yeah, we always got to remember that that's important. Folks, thanks for tuning in. We're going to get one more reaction in, hopefully out on Sunday night. Hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on that. We're closing in on 600 subs. The goal is to get to 1,000 by the end of March so that we can prove to ownership and management that we're doing a good job. Help us out, please. We'll talk to you guys later.